"Step back, sir. You don't live here." The words cracked through the quiet street like a whip. Fingers pointed. A woman in a fitted white dress sneered, her voice echoing against the iron gates of a mansion that, unbeknownst to everyone present, belonged entirely to the man she was accusing. 3 uniformed guards flanked her, one already unclipping his handcuffs as if justice meant humiliation. "Before we continue, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you believe in dignity and justice, hit like and subscribe. These stories spark change, and we're glad you're here." Now, back to him. The man stood silent, broad-shouldered, calm, dressed not in tailored suits but in a gray tank top that read "Humanity" across the chest. His hands rested in front of him, fingers interlocked, steady as stone. He didn't argue, he didn't plead, he simply waited. The guards didn't see patience, they saw defiance. One smirked. Another laughed openly, shaking his head. The third officer leaned close, voice low but cutting. "Guys like you don't belong past these gates. You think money got you here? Think again." The woman stepped closer, heels clicking like a metronome of arrogance. She jabbed a finger inches from his face. "This is a private residence. Cry all you want, you're not getting through. Call backup now." A red light flickered above the keypad beside the gate. The system scanned quietly, but no one noticed. What they did notice was his silence, and silence, to them, looked like weakness. But it wasn't. He had seen this before at 23, when a landlord refused to hand him keys to the very apartment he had already purchased. At 30, when a valet tossed him the wrong set of car keys, convinced he was just hired help. And now, again, different faces, same contempt. The air thickened. A small crowd gathered on the sidewalk. A teenager lifted his phone, whispering, "I'm recording this." The woman turned sharply, shouting for security to detain him as well. She wanted control, but the moment was already slipping. He looked up finally, eyes calm but sharp enough to slice. "You're certain I don't belong here?" The laughter rose again. The handcuffs gleamed in the guard's grip, but the gate behind them hummed deep, mechanical, unignorable. A screen lit red, then green. Access recognized. Owner profile. No one moved. No one spoke, and that was only the beginning. The green glow from the gate's screen lingered like a verdict, but the guards didn't back down. One of them scoffed, "Glitch in the system. Happens all the time." His hand still hovered near the cuffs. The woman in white crossed her arms, heels digging into the pavement. "This proves nothing. Real owners don't show up in gym clothes." He didn't respond. Instead, he adjusted the strap of the small leather case slung over his shoulder. No logo, no luxury, just clean, practical. Calm radiated from him like armor. He had walked into bigger storms than this. At that moment, the system chimed again. A smooth, automated voice rang out through the speaker above the gate, clear and deliberate. "Welcome home, Mr. Carter." The words froze the street. A teenager holding his phone gasped audibly. Even the guards exchanged quick, nervous glances. But the woman snapped back, louder, desperate. "Anyone could hack that. He doesn't belong here." Her shout carried across the quiet cul-de-sac, drawing more neighbors to their windows. A silver SUV slowed to a stop, the driver leaning out to watch. The teenager whispered to his live stream, "Y'all just heard that, right?" The system literally welcomed him by name. Comments began flooding the screen faster than he could read. Mr. Carter didn't flinch. He had been dismissed in so many forms before, told he didn't look like a client, didn't fit the image of wealth, didn't belong in places he had built with his own hands. And now, at the gates of his own mansion, the story repeated itself. Different setting, same prejudice. One guard stepped forward, jaw tight. "Look, sir, we can't just let you through because some voice box says your name. Protocol requires verification." His tone sharpened on the last word, as if procedure could erase truth. Mr. Carter's eyes shifted briefly toward the keypad. As if on cue, the gate's cameras rotated with a low, mechanical hum. They locked not on him but on the guards. A second chime echoed. "Unauthorized personnel detected. Access suspended." The guards stiffened. One clutched his badge, the red light on it flickered, then dimmed completely. Another guard tugged at the earpiece in his ear, frowning when static replaced the dispatch line. Their system had just turned on them. The crowd outside stirred, whispers colliding. "Did it just lock them out?" someone muttered. The woman's face flushed red. She pointed again, but the confidence in her voice cracked. "This isn't real. You're manipulating something." Mr. Carter finally spoke, his voice calm but firm. "I didn't have to do anything. This house knows who belongs here, and it also knows who doesn't." And the air grew heavier, as if the mansion itself was about to pass judgment. The guards froze, badges flickering dead against their belts. One finally muttered, "This has to be a system fault." His voice, thin and nervous, betrayed him. The woman in white stepped forward, pointing at Carter like she could pierce him with sheer outrage. "Don't just stand there. Detain him. That's your job." But hesitation had already crept in. The tallest guard shifted his weight, scanning the keypad again. "Ma'am, the gate just revoked our access. I don't care," she snapped, her voice rising high enough for neighbors to hear. "Do it, before he gets inside." From across the street, a man in jogging gear slowed, pulling out his phone. "Wait," he said cautiously. "That system literally called him Mr. Carter. That's not a glitch. That's identity recognition." The woman whirled on him. "Stay out of this." But her protest only fueled the whispers rippling through the small crowd. Mr. Carter didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. He looked at the guards directly. "You know what happens when you stop listening to protocol and start listening to bias? You lose everything." His words cut sharper than the steel bars of the gate. The second guard, the younger one, tightened his jaw. "Sir, I still need to see ID." He reached out toward Carter's shoulder, trying to guide him back. The moment his fingers brushed the fabric of Carter's shirt, the mansion's alarms pulsed 3 short, piercing tones. The ground lights around the driveway snapped on, casting the guards in stark white. Another automated voice boomed from hidden speakers. "Warning, unauthorized physical contact with the property owner." The guard yanked his hand back as if burned, his face drained of color. The teenager live streaming whispered into his mic, "Did y'all hear that? It just called him the property owner." Comments poured faster. "Bro owns the house. They're done. This is wild." The woman's voice cracked now, desperate. "He's lying. He staged this. Look at him. He doesn't live here, not dressed like that." Carter's gaze didn't waver. He remembered being 26, standing outside a dealership where a salesman told him, "Real buyers don't come in, sneakers." That sting had faded long ago, but the memory had sharpened into something else resolve. He inhaled slowly, then said, clear enough for every ear outside those gates, "The clothes don't make the owner. The deed does, and mine has my name on every line." The murmurs grew into a low chorus. Doubt had shifted sides. The guards looked uneasy. The crowd leaned in, and for the first time, it wasn't Carter standing on trial. It was them. And the storm had only just begun. The alarms faded into silence, leaving the driveway lit like a stage. Mr. Carter stood motionless in the glow, his frame steady, his eyes fixed on the guards who just seconds earlier had tried to move him like a trespasser. He didn't flinch. He didn't speak. That silence cut sharper than any retort. The tallest guard cleared his throat, trying to recover authority. "Sir, you're escalating this." His voice wavered on escalating, as if he already knew the word didn't fit. Carter hadn't moved an inch. The woman in white seized on the pause. "See? He's dangerous. Just standing there like he owns the place." She laughed, brittle, a little too high-pitched. "This is intimidation." The neighbors weren't convinced. A man leaning against his car muttered, "Intimidation? He hasn't even said anything." The teenager live streaming whispered into his phone, "Bro's literally just standing still. They're losing it." Carter's silence grew heavier with each passing second. He breathed slowly, deliberately, as if anchoring the space around him. The air changed, no longer the guard's command, no longer the woman's accusations. The atmosphere bent toward him, pulled by his composure. The younger guard snapped, frustration boiling over. "Say something! Where's your proof?" He lunged forward, waving his dead badge as if it could still command obedience. Carter didn't move. His stillness forced the guard to falter mid-step, momentum collapsing into embarrassment. A flicker of memory crossed Carter's mind. 19 years old, accused of shoplifting in a store where he'd spent his last paycheck on his mother's birthday gift. He had stood just like this, then silent, steady, knowing innocence didn't always protect, but dignity could. That same quiet power filled the driveway now. The woman's patience broke. She shouted, "Security, why are you hesitating? Restrain him before he gets inside." But her voice cracked on restrain, trembling with the realization that control was slipping. Carter finally lifted his head, not to speak, but to look directly into the nearest security camera. The lens shifted, zooming on his face with mechanical precision. The system chimed again. Identity confirmed. Full access maintained. The crowd murmured louder. Phones rose higher. The narrative was turning before their eyes. And Carter? He still hadn't said a word, because sometimes silence is the loudest verdict. The crowd outside the gate was no longer a handful of curious onlookers. It was swelling neighbors stepping onto porches, drivers slowing their cars, phones lifting like torches in the night. The silence Carter held had shifted into something larger, a question hanging heavy in the air. A teenager's live stream ticked past 5,000 viewers. His voice shook as he narrated. They tried to cuff him, but the system called him the property owner. You're all seeing this. Comments rolled up the screen. Classic profiling. Let him in. This is wild justice in real time. Near the gate, a woman in a red blouse stepped forward. She was small, middle-aged, a neighbor most barely noticed until now. Her voice was soft but steady. I've lived across from this house for 8 years. That's Mr. Carter. He moved here before half of you even bought in. The tallest guard blinked, caught off guard. The woman in white whipped toward her, furious. You don't know what you're talking about. But the neighbor didn't retreat. She raised her phone higher. I know exactly who I'm talking about, and I'm recording everything you're saying. The tension rippled. Another voice chimed in, a man leaning against his silver SUV. She's right. I've seen him here every week. Jogging, coming back late, greeting the mail guy. This is his home. He shifted, staring at the guards. Why are you acting like he's a stranger? The younger guard's lips parted, but nothing came out. Carter still hadn't spoken. His stillness was its own protest, but his silence gave others courage. From the back of the crowd, someone yelled, "This is discrimination." A chorus followed, some in agreement, others murmuring disbelief. A woman, clutching her child, shook her head. All this just because of how he looks? The live stream buzzed louder. Viewers spammed the comments. Expose them. Post the full clip. He owns them all. The woman in white snapped, desperation bleeding through. Stop filming. None of you understand this man is trespassing. But the words sounded hollow now, drained of authority. Carter finally lifted his gaze from the pavement to the crowd, eyes calm, voice low but firm. Use your words, not just your cameras. The teenager lowered his phone slightly, swallowing hard. You mean, speak up? Carter nodded once. The neighbor in the red blouse stepped closer to the gate, her voice louder this time. You don't get to erase him, not again. And with that, the driveway became more than a gate. It became a courtroom. Witnesses weren't just present, they were rising. The tension snapped like a wire pulled too tight. The woman in white planted herself squarely in front of the guards, voice rising above the murmurs of the crowd. Are you all blind? He doesn't belong here. He's a fraud, a con artist, and you're letting him play you. Her words rang sharp, meant to cut through doubt. One of the guards straightened his shoulders as if regaining courage from her fury. Ma'am, we'll handle it, he said, but his eyes betrayed hesitation. The neighbor in the red blouse shot back, louder this time. Enough, he does live here. Stop pretending you don't see it. Phones swung from one speaker to another, capturing every second. The live stream ticked higher, 10,000 viewers now, comments pouring like water. She's losing it. Classic cover-up. Watch the deflection. The woman's eyes darted at the screens and then back to Carter, venom dripping. This neighborhood was built to be safe. People like you threaten that safety. Dressed like that, walking in like you own the place. She spat the last words, mocking, cruel. You're a thief trying to look important. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. Even one of the guards muttered under his breath. That's too far. Carter's expression didn't change. He stood as if rooted, his silence a mirror reflecting her ugliness back at her. The younger guard, emboldened, raised his chin. Sir, you're not verified. Until you show proof, this is trespassing. That's the law. He pulled out his radio and pressed the button. Static answered him. The system had already cut his line. The crowd caught it instantly. Someone near the back shouted, Even your radio knows who owns this place. Laughter broke through the tension, short but sharp. The woman's face flushed crimson. She turned back to Carter, spitting each word. Go back to wherever you came from. You don't belong here. That line hung heavier than the alarms, heavier than the lights. It wasn't just an accusation, it was an erasure. Carter lifted his head slowly, locking eyes with her for the first time. His voice, low and measured, sliced through the noise. "You keep saying I don't belong. Ask yourself, why do you?" The crowd stirred. The live stream erupted. And in that instant, the balance shifted. The guards no longer looked like protectors. They looked like men caught on the wrong side of history. And the night wasn't done with them yet. The crowd's murmur hadn't even settled when the younger guard snapped. His patience cracked into anger. "That's it," he barked, reaching for Carter's arm again. "You're under detention for trespassing." His hand clamped down hard, shoving Carter back a step. Gasps rippled through the street. The teenager's live stream jolted as he shouted into his phone. "They're putting hands on him again on the owner." Comments surged. "Lawsuit incoming. This is assault. They're finished." The tallest guard stepped in to back his partner, fumbling for the cuffs. "Don't resist and this will be over quickly," he muttered, more to himself than to Carter. But the tremor in his voice betrayed him. The woman in white seized the moment, her face twisted with triumph. "Yes, get him out of here. Lock him up before he fools anyone else." She pointed at Carter as though she were a judge delivering a sentence. "People like him only take what isn't theirs." Her words landed like shrapnel. Neighbors recoiled. The woman in the red blouse shouted, "Stop! He hasn't done a thing." But her voice was nearly drowned out by the metallic snap of the cuffs. The sound was sharp, final like a verdict. Yet the house itself answered. The gate lights blazed brighter, a deep alarm pulsing in rhythm. A new voice, colder, more authoritative than before, echoed from the speakers. "Warning! Use of force against the property owner will trigger escalation protocol." The guards froze mid-motion. One cuff clinked uselessly against Carter's wrist, refusing to lock as the metal mechanism jammed. The system had shut it down. Phones caught everything: the alarm, the automated declaration, the failed cuffs. The live stream ticker shot upward, 20,000, then 30. The younger guard cursed under his breath, yanking the cuff back. Damn equipment. But the crowd had already decided. "That's no glitch," someone called. "That house is protecting him." Ugh. The woman's mask cracked, fury spilling into panic. She screamed, "He hacked it! Don't you see? He's a criminal!" But her voice shook, no longer sharp, only desperate. Carter's voice rose for the first time that night, steady and resonant. "You just called me a thief at the gates of the mansion I built. Every word, every action, you've only proven who doesn't belong here." The crowd erupted, some gasping, others cheering, all of them witnessing the fracture of authority. The cuffs dangled uselessly from the guard's hand, and for the first time, it was clear the line had been crossed. And there was no going back. The useless cuff clattered against Carter's wrist once before slipping free, the mechanism refusing to close. The guard stared at it like it had betrayed him. The alarm lights bathed the driveway in red and white, pulsing with authority. Carter exhaled slowly, steady, then reached into his pocket. Not fast, not frantic, deliberate. He pulled out his phone, tapped once, and lifted it to his ear. His voice carried low but firm. "Nia, activate West Gate Protocol." The line clicked alive. A woman's voice answered instantly, crisp and unwavering. "Understood. System override engaged. Visual feed syncing now." Above the gate, cameras rotated with a sharp whir, lenses narrowing on the guards. Their radios hissed static before cutting to silence. The tallest one pressed his earpiece in panic. "Dispatch, do you copy?" Nothing. Just dead air. The crowd gasped as a new display lit up on the gate's panel. Rows of green text scrolled across the glass, flashing names, employee IDs, clearance levels. Then, one by one, the names of the guards blinked red. Access revoked. The younger guard stumbled back. No, this isn't possible." His badge buzzed, then dimmed, the light gone. The crowd caught it, phones zooming in, voices rising. "They're locked out! He just shut them down!" The woman in white stepped forward, desperation sharp in her voice. "Stop this charade! You're bluffing! This is some trick!" Carter's tone didn't rise, but every syllable carried weight. "I don't bluff with what's mine." The system voice followed, calm and unyielding. "Security clearance terminated. Awaiting owner authorization for personnel removal." 30 phones caught the message, broadcasting it live. The live stream counter ticked past 50,000, the guards' faces drained of color. One tried his badge again, slamming it against the reader. It buzzed red, then coldly displayed. No, longer valid. The crowd erupted some clapping, others laughing in disbelief. A man shouted, "He just fired the entire team on the spot!" The woman's voice cracked now, trembling between fury and fear. You can't do this! You don't have that power!" Carter turned his gaze on her, calm as stone. "You mistook silence for weakness. That was your last mistake." The alarm silenced. The gate swung open on its own, slow and deliberate, like a curtain rising. And for the first time all night it was clear. He wasn't the intruder. He was the judge. The gate groaned open, iron bars parting like a curtain revealing truth. Carter didn't rush inside. He stood where he was, letting the silence weigh heavy on the guards, the woman, and the swelling crowd. The system voice returned, smooth and certain. "Owner profile confirmed. Welcome home, Mr. Carter." Gasps rolled through the street. Phones lifted higher. The teenager on live stream nearly shouted into his mic, "Did y'all hear that? It just said he's the owner. Not a guest. Not a visitor. The owner." The woman in white stumbled back a step, her face drained. "No, that can't be. He's lying. He staged this." Her words faltered under the glow of screens capturing every second. Carter finally spoke, his tone measured, deliberate. "You called me a trespasser at my own mansion. You tried to cuff me at my own gate, and you dared to erase me from what I built." The crowd stirred, murmurs swelling into open disbelief at the guards. A man in the SUV shook his head, voice carrying. "She said he didn't belong. Turns out, she's the one who doesn't." The younger guard's badge buzzed again, flashing the words, "Access permanently revoked." His hands trembled as he shoved it into his pocket, eyes darting toward Carter but finding no ground to stand on. Carter's phone remained at his side. Nia's voice came faint but clear from the speaker. "All systems synced. Authority recognized. Do you want public verification engaged?" Carter's gaze swept across the crowd, the live streams, the faces pressed to windows. He didn't hesitate. "Yes, let them all see." The gate's screen flickered, shifting from text to image. A glossy magazine cover appeared, Forbes, his face centered with the headline, "Carter Holdings CEO expands global portfolio." Another image followed, a ribbon-cutting ceremony in front of the very mansion, his hand on the shears. The crowd gasped louder now, the murmurs no longer whispers but exclamations. "That's him! He really owns it!" They tried to throw out the owner of the whole estate. The woman shook her head violently, retreating. No, this isn't happening." But no one believed her anymore. Carter lifted his eyes, steady and unyielding. "I don't need to shout. My life speaks for itself. You tried to deny it. Tonight, the truth denied you." The crowd erupted applause, cheers, phones shaking as they streamed. For the guards and the woman, the weight of what they'd done settled in, heavy and merciless. And the night had turned. Carter was no longer the accused. He was the owner, revealed, undeniable. The street erupted into chaos, not with violence but with revelation. Phones flashed, neighbors shouted over one another, and the live stream ticker rolled past 70,000 viewers. The balance of power had snapped in an instant. The guards who once stood firm now looked hollow. The tallest rubbed his temples, muttering, We didn't know." His partner dropped the useless cuffs to the pavement. The metal clink rang out like an admission of guilt. The woman in white stumbled backward, her polished confidence gone. Her voice cracked, thin and unsteady. "You all can't believe this. He manipulated the system. People like him." She cut herself off, realizing the words had already condemned her. From the crowd, the red-bloused neighbor stepped forward, pointing directly at the guards. "You laid hands on him. You tried to erase him. Every second of it is recorded." Her phone trembled, not from fear but from rage. "You don't get to hide now." The guards exchanged desperate glances, their faces pale. One whispered, "This could cost us everything." "It already did," another answered, staring at his dead badge. The SUV driver, still filming, raised his voice. "You just profiled the man who owns your jobs, your paychecks, your future, and you did it in front of the world." His words cut through the noise like a gavel. The teenager's live stream spiked again, comments flooding, fired on the spot. "Hope they sue. This is justice." Ugh! Carter hadn't moved. He let the weight of silence stretch again, every second pressing harder on those who had mocked him. Finally, he spoke, each word measured. "You called me a fraud. You locked me out of what I built. And now, the truth has locked you out instead." The guards flinched. The woman shook her head violently, eyes darting for an escape. But the crowd had turned. A mother holding her daughter pulled the girl closer and said aloud, "Remember this. Respect doesn't wear a uniform. It wears dignity." Applause broke out, scattered at first, then swelling as more voices joined. Phones pointed not at Carter now, but at the guards and the woman, capturing their shame. The crisis was complete. Those who had claimed power stood exposed, stripped of authority, while the man they tried to erase stood taller without moving at all. And the night wasn't finished with them. The applause ebbed into a hush, every eye fixed on Carter. The guards stood rigid, badges dead, authority gone, waiting for something they couldn't name but feared they already knew. The woman in white backed against the gatepost, her earlier bravado stripped bare. Carter raised his phone again, tapped once. "Nia," he said evenly, his voice carrying without effort, "log the incident. Terminate Westgate security detail, effective immediately." Her reply came sharp, no hesitation. Acknowledged. Credentials revoked. Employment records flagged. Processing now. The guards flinched as the system responded in real time. Their badges buzzed once more, then went black, entirely screens fading to nothing, access wiped. The tallest tried his earpiece again. Dead. Another yanked his phone from his belt, only to see it auto-logged out, the screen reading, "Access denied. Employment terminated." Gasps erupted from the crowd. The teenager on livestream nearly dropped his phone, whispering, "He just fired the whole team. Right here, right now." Comments scrolled in, "Instant karma. This is unreal. Power flex of the century." The SUV driver clapped once, sharp. Others joined, slow at first, then louder, until the air cracked with the sound of justice delivered. The woman in white stumbled forward, desperate. "You can't do this. You don't have the right." Carter's eyes locked on hers. His voice was quiet, but it carried across the driveway like a sentence. "You mistook my silence for permission. Consider this your correction." She froze, lips trembling, as the crowd jeered softly. Someone shouted, "Check the live stream, it's all there. Every second." The guards no longer fought. They stood small, stripped of their power, their shame recorded from every angle. The neighbor in red lifted her phone higher, steady and resolute. "Justice isn't loud, it's final." Carter lowered his phone, pocketed it, and stepped once toward the open gate. The sensors lit up green, the house welcoming him with calm certainty. Behind him, the terminated team stared like ghosts at the edge of a world they no longer controlled. The crowd leaned closer, waiting, knowing something irreversible had just taken place. And Carter, without raising his voice, had dismantled an entire system in front of them all. The green glow of the open gate washed over Carter's frame as he stepped forward at last. The iron doors parted fully, not with haste but with ceremony, like the house itself acknowledged its rightful master. Every phone in the crowd tilted upward, capturing the moment as if history had paused in front of them. Behind him, the fired guards stood paralyzed, their badges dead, their radios silent, their authority erased in the span of minutes. The woman in white pressed her back against the brick column. Her voice shrunk to a whisper. "This can't be real." But the crowd no longer listened to her. All eyes were fixed on Carter. He turned once more, not rushing inside, but letting the silence stretch. His voice rose calm and resonant, every syllable measured, cutting through the night. "You tried to erase me from my own gates. You called me an intruder where my name is carved in stone. But dignity doesn't need volume. It only needs truth." The neighbors stirred, nodding, murmurs swelling. The teenager's live stream counter ticked past 100,000, comments exploding, "This is iconic. True power." He didn't yell once. Carter let the words hang, then added one more line, sharp as the final strike of a gavel. "I don't need to record justice. I am the result of it." The crowd erupted. Applause cracked through the night, cheers rising, voices chanting his name. The SUV driver raised both arms in solidarity. The woman in red blouse, tears in her eyes, whispered, "About time they saw the truth." The guards turned away, smaller than they had ever looked, swallowed by the weight of their own failure. The woman in white tried to slip through the onlookers, but phones followed her every move, documenting the downfall of arrogance. Carter faced the gate again. The mansion lights flickered on across the facade, golden and steady, as though the home itself was bowing in recognition. He stepped inside without looking back, the heavy doors swinging shut behind him with a sound like a gavel closing court. The crowd remained, buzzing, replaying, streaming, knowing they had just witnessed something more than an argument. It was justice not shouted, not begged for, but delivered with silence, patience, and undeniable power. And when the gates locked again, the message lingered in the night air. True power never needs to prove itself. It simply reveals itself.